How you doing? How's the family? Good? Good. This video is a long time coming. Today I'm going to tell you all experiences that I have had in my haunted home of 12 years. I was 6 years old when I first moved into that home, and I was 18 years old when we finally moved. This meant that my entire development from the age of 6 years old to 18, I was completely inundated in demonic occurrences and paranormal activity. As I grew up very sensitive to these things, I've seen it in other people's homes, I've been able to sense it anywhere I go, and these are some of the tales from that house. That house always felt like it had at least 50 people living inside of it at all times. Every hour of the day. It always felt crowded, it always felt noisy, it always felt claustrophobic. There was only 4 of us, and you never felt like you were truly alone. There was always the feeling of eyes behind you burning into your back. There was always the shadows that would cross at the corner of your eye. I thought it was normal within homes to feel that way. It wasn't until I was 18 and we moved into this house that I felt something truly empty. I felt solace and actual peace and actual, like nothing. Clean, quiet. I had never experienced that before. This was the same house that face showed up on my chest, and something terrifying happened almost every night. And the first night we were there was no different. On the first night that we were there, the house was still unfurnished, there were still things to be moved, and we were all sharing one bed in my parents' bedroom. In the middle of their sleep, my parents jumped up, terrified, because they had heard a scream from inside the house. They described it as blood-curdling shrieking of an old woman. Their bedroom was right here. There was a wall and a door and another hallway. Apparently the scream came from the room in front, which would have been the dining room. As in there was only one paper-thin wall in between them and that scream. It didn't sound like a cat shrieking. It sounded like an old woman from within the house, screaming her lungs out. But I digress. I've had moments in that house where I wake up and I look in the mirror and the person looking back at me is not me. I've had my walls move in and out as if they were breathing. Our dogs would bark at empty corners of the house and they'd go crazy out of nowhere. They'd stare into empty spaces, all of that. My family never really talked about their experiences in the house until after we moved out. I was the only one that was vocal about it because all those things seemed to be happening either to me or near me all the time, persistently, so I had to say something about it. But once we moved, my mom told me about multiple times that she would always see the shadows crossing at the side of her eye. She told me how apparently the electricity was fine, but light bulbs would always go out and waste all the time in my brother's room. A light bulb could not last in his room. She also mentioned that one time she was alone and she heard very softly, very, very close to her ear, "Mama." And her reaction was that my brother was calling. She would go see him and he was knocked out, completely asleep. That was the first house that my brother ever lived in, and there were a lot of attacks on his life when we were in there. He was always choking, he was always sick. There were always freak accidents with my brother, whether dressers fell on top of him or picture frames would slam him on the head, and he was a baby. He was the most fragile one in the house, so I mean, it kind of makes sense. When my brother was a little older, he told me that there was one time that he saw me exit my room with my hair kind of draped over my face, and a couple moments later, I walked out again, therefore leading to the point that the first person walking out of that room wasn't me, and he saw something else exiting my room. There was always such a bad feeling in the house, and I feel like that caused us to always fight. I had a horrible relationship with my parents. I had a bad relationship with my brother. It was a lot of fighting and a lot of anger and a lot of resentment and a lot of hate and a lot of pent up shit. While I grew up in a home like this, I also grew up in a church. And in this church, I saw it as my home away from home. I saw it as refuge because I always felt peace and I felt better and I felt rejuvenated every time I would go, and I found strength to go back to sleep, you know, because I felt I had something more powerful on my side. And I'm not here to preach. I'm here telling you about my own personal journey and how it happened, and that was definitely a big part of it. While I was at church, I believe it was probably Sunday school or it was youth group or something like that, we were given these little silver stars on a ribbon and it would have words on them. The one that I got said faith. And I kept mine on top of my dresser. My dresser was basically the dresser, a mirror, and the mirror would have 2 little arches, and I had my star hung on it. And that was hung on my mirror forever. I remember one night I was sitting on my bed just like this, and I looked up because I felt a presence in the room. And I looked to my left, which is where my dresser was, and I stared at it. And I kind of just waited for it to happen because I knew something was gonna happen. I could feel it. And my dresser started rattling, like moving, and it increased. And as I stared at it, I didn't believe what I was hearing or what I was seeing, but it started shaking. I live in Florida. There was no earthquake. This heavy dresser and mirror were shaking. I stared at it and I was paralyzed, but I somehow in my mind tried to tell myself that I needed proof that it was actually moving. So I said logically, if it's moving, then the star is gonna fall because it's just hung on the edge. And it kept shaking so hard that that star fell, clanging onto the ground, and that's when I knew it was all too real, and I started screaming so loud for my parents to come into the room. And Mia, come here, baby. You're scaring the out of me. It's okay. Now, my house was not big and the walls were paper thin. If my TV was at 10 volume out of 100, my parents would hear it and tell me to shut it off. I was yelling so loud with everything I had, with all the fear inside of me. I was yelling for them to come into the room and help me. No one woke up. No one moved. No one stirred, and I was there alone. No one in my house was gonna comfort me because something wasn't letting the fucking scream permeate through the walls. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. But that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I felt trapped and I felt stuck. So I just sat there. I don't remember if I prayed or if I sang hymns. I don't remember what I did until I knocked out. When I woke up, I saw that the star was still on the ground, and I ran because it was daylight and I felt just safer in daylight to run. I ran out of my room. My mom was in the kitchen and I asked her, why didn't you come last night when I was screaming for you? And she told me that she heard nothing coming from my room and she had trouble sleeping. So she was awake. It wasn't some deep sleep. She told me that she had trouble sleeping, so she would have heard me. So I think that's kind of enough for now. I'll keep adding more videos to this about other things I've seen, other things I've experienced. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know below. Comment, subscribe, share it if you want to creep someone out. Hell, you know, why not? And I'd like to know below, have you guys ever been through anything paranormal? Have you seen things, heard things, anything like that? Alright guys, I'm gonna go edit. Bye.
Cars, so many cars.
And I gotta stay in my lane, boy. Yeah! Hi, how are you? Welcome to the cold read. Okay, so here's the script. Now read the lines about 400 different ways, and when you get to 400, keep going. The moment that I just got there, this gorgeous model woman got into her car, and I was like, what? Bitch, I'm not walking in after that! All that matters is that I had fun. And if I don't get it, I mean, you know, whatever. They just didn't like my face. It's okay, they're not the first. But if I did get it, oh my god, it looks so much better on you. I'm fine. Okay.